second business summit for Bedford Township. I want to thank the business owners for everything you guys do in this township, everything you support. We couldn't do what we do here without you guys. Christmas festival that we did, the Blizzard Fest, the Tempest Street Fest that's going on, Duke Farms, the Veterans Center, Little Blessings. I mean, we have so many neat things going on here. And it's because of the small businesses that you guys keep these things rolling. So we thank you so much. I also want to thank the business professionals here. We appreciate you all. And I want to just go through real quickly here, elected officials. We have Troy Goodenough here. He is with the jail, and he's also running for the sheriff position at 2020. So, Troy, if you'd like to stand up, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Vice Chair of the Monroe County Commissioners, Greg Moore here. Thank you, Greg. We have Paul Peroni here. Train Commissioner David Thompson, great partner, great guy. And I believe that's it. If I missed anybody, please stand up. No? Michelle Dugan. There she is.
Do you want to?
Okay, so, thank you very much. Oh, Matt Zook, Monroe County Tourism Bureau. New position, thank you. Okay, I'd also like to thank the Bedford Economic Development Committee for putting this event together. Kristen Nussbaum and worked very hard on it, and Al Greer worked very hard on that, and their team. I also like to thank the Bedford Business Association for the partnership with the township in this event. I'd like to thank the Bedford Public Schools for hosting the event. I'd like to thank the business that provided the awesome food for this free event. Subway in Lambertville, Howard's Meats for the sandwiches, Horseby Lanes for the salad, Smokehouse 734 for the mac and cheese, and Food Town for the pop and water. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. At this time, George Welling, we're going to start a video. George was hired last year by the township to bring awareness to the township and all the things we have, to really bring awareness to what we offer. So he's been great. He does some really cool things. So thank you.
If you head north from Toledo, Ohio, you will find the community of Bedford Township. Bedford was once known as a bedroom community to Toledo. But through coordinated planning, innovative thinking, and positive growth, Bedford has blossomed and is now known as the place where Michigan begins. Bedford's healthy business climate means a growing community and a growing job market. All sizes and types of business flourish in Bedford, and we look forward to more. Entrepreneurs work together with the Bedford Business Association to grow and support our businesses. There are always jobs available here for you, from entry level to skilled trades to management positions. Our township enjoys a great location with quick and easy access to the world by way of major highways, railroads, ports, and international airports. The township is already making plans to take advantage of the new Gordie Howe Bridge to Canada to further aid in the growth of our industries. Bedford has a large selection of styles of homes and neighborhoods, presenting a country feel, but with city amenities. Bedford offers living for all stages of life. Apartment living and starter homes are available in all 3 villages. Subdivisions with their own personalities that will fit your lifestyle. Communities for active senior adults. Small and large farms are scattered throughout the township. And if you want breathing space and a home with acreage, you can create your own estate. Bedford is proud of their award-winning K-12 school system. 3 elementary schools feed into the junior and senior high schools, offering the latest in classroom technology. Other educational opportunities in Bedford include the New Bedford Academy, a tuition-free charter school, and the State Line Christian School. College classes are available right here on the Bedford campus of both Monroe County Community College and Spring Arbor University. Within an hour of Bedford, there are many major universities to attend. When the workday is done and schoolwork is put aside, there is so much to enjoy in Bedford. We are host to a county park and 6 township parks. Take some leisure time on one of our 3 golf courses. Enjoy a family outing at the local zoo. Shop for fresh produce at the farmers market or at one of our roadside stands. Visit the local library, a hub for dozens of activities and technology services. Our community also offers centers for seniors and our veterans. Just over the border in Toledo, there are even more things to do, such as visiting the Toledo Art Museum or cheering on professional and college sports teams. Whether you are young or young at heart, you will find plenty of activities within our community. The finest part of Bedford is that sense of community. The villages of Lambertville, Samaria, and Temperance, each with their own history, come together to look out for each other. We gather at local fundraisers to support causes near and dear to our hearts. Our fire department and county sheriff's office offer the peace of mind and security our citizens deserve. Our government center provides services and promotes local industrial development, supports businesses in advancing their growth, and strives to improve the quality of life for our community. Come and be a part of Bedford Township. Shop the local grocery markets. Find a house of worship that fits your family. Dine at our restaurants, from small coffee shops and fast food franchises to local favorites. Enjoy the country feel. Discover for yourself what Bedford has to offer. There is truly something here for everyone. It is fitting that Bedford is known as where Michigan begins, because here in Bedford, there are so many great beginnings. Come and find yours.
I'm probably going to butcher this, Barry, but I want to thank Barry Bushman and his team, because without the Manick and Smith Group and the partnership we have with them in the township, it would be really tough for us to do this. So they come up with a 5-year plan. Every year we revise it. This year we're really moving forward in a really fast direction, because we're spending $2 million almost out of our general fund, about 1.5, and then the total with grants, federal, state, and road commission is about $5 million into our road system this year in Bedford. So we appreciate all their work they do in this, but you're going to see some of these is Whiteford Center from section all the way down the state line is getting widened and fully restored. You're going to see Douglas Road in between Rauch and Samaria. That's getting totally rehauled. And both sections of Crab Road, I know Duke Farms and Lord Blessing will be excited, but from Rauch Road to Erie Road will be fully restored. So, and then you're going to have a lot of maintenance. See, all this is a maintenance. Before we did this 5-year program, we didn't have a maintenance plan. That's why you saw roads really deteriorate with no plan. This is a plan to maintain them and fix them. You know, so we have a constant thing going there. So we appreciate that. Really quick, I wanted to go over some of the things that are back here on the table that you can grab, because last time we did the update, everybody wanted the information, we got a bunch of phone calls afterwards. So we have the 2018-2019 development information. These are approved developments. I have packets back there. But really quick, these are the changes from the last 6-month update. Hickory Creek subdivision is going to be doing another access off Stearns Road, and they're going to be adding 22 building lots. So people that live in Hickory Creek that were always wondering, what if that bridge fails? Now you have a second entrance to get out. So we're excited about that. Hickory Ridge is going to be doing 11,000 square foot building addition with extended parking to the north of them. That's going to be planning this Wednesday, so we're excited for that. The Hampton Manor Assisted Living Facility, that'll be 76 units. That is the project that John Bates, Jess Saylor, they're doing at the corner of the old cow farm, everybody calls it. They bought 7 acres of that. That is being rezoned to RME, and that'll be an elderly care facility. So a lot going on with that piece of property, a lot more to come. I think it's going to be a really neat development when it's all said and done. Quick update on Bridgepoint Church. They're extending the water line. They're not going to be doing wells like they previously did. So the township, to look in the future, because we've had a lot of SAPs come for that water for neighborhoods and go to the north, and they always fail, and a lot of it's because of the railroad tracks. So the township extended the water line underneath the railroad tracks for future expansion. So we got that done. So already we're seeing results because Bridgepoint Church is going to be tying into that. We're excited for them. They'll be breaking ground shortly, hopefully, and excited to see their building go up. So that's some of the information there on changes. That's back on the table. Really quick, I wanted to go over new businesses. We got Pavlov's Microbrewery. I don't know if any of you have been out there, but that's a really cool place over off Lewis Avenue. Restored an old bank. But they have some really good drinks in there. Gerth's Market is open. We did a ribbon cutting for them about a month ago, and they took over the old Silas Farm Market, and so they have a lot of good stuff in there. We've got Smokehouse 734, and a lot of people are ranting and raving about that. So that's over there. And we got Charlie Mops over there, the Concierge and the Secor at the corner. We have Arby's coming at the direct corner of Secor and Stearns, Tropical Smoothie. We just did a grand opening for Fitness Nutrition over off Lewis Avenue by Maggie's Cafe. And then Dollar General is open now at the corner of Summerfield and Stearns. So these are some of the businesses going on. So if you want any more information, there's a lot of information back there on the table. I wanted to go over really quick housing starts. And for 2018, we had 77 new home permits pulled with a totaling of $16 million, and then in 2019 so far we have 28. So we're trending about the same. So a lot of good stuff going on there. And then in the back also I have that list of building starts. I have commercial construction projects that either began or completed in 2019, but that just tells about what kind of additions and stuff like that we have going on. So you can pick up all that information in the back. Really quick, I wanted to touch base on some of the new things we have going on in township. Our ordinance department is really changing and becoming a more proactive ordinance department. We're really trying to get the word out on how our ordinances work and what our ordinances are, because a lot of people don't know. I don't know if you realize, if you live in Bedford, this time of year it's not big smoke haze anymore, to where we've not stopped burning, but we've created an environment to where you have a lot of options. We've partnered with Mulch King over there off of Telegraph and Smith, to where anything you want to drop off there year-round, other than December and January, I believe, it's free to the township residents. Grass all year long, sticks, brush, whatever you want to drop off there. I think it's up to a certain size of log. It's free to all Bedford township residents. So that's a great thing. So now you have an option. We're not just telling you can't burn, you have an option. But we're enforcing the rules too. We've hired 2 more seasonal officers to go out there and enforce the people that are illegal burning in ditches, burning in driveways, and letting their burners smolder all night long. So the people that won't have the windows open at night can breathe. So just this season alone, the last 2 months, we put out 115 illegal burns. So it's working. And we've gotten a lot of people excited about that. If you are 55 and older, a lot of you in here, we have a guidebooks for 55 and older in the township that kind of tells you a lot about some of the things to look for, but we've got these packets now at the township. We've got bike maps. We partnered with Teamacog, and we've got bike maps that show you bike routes. So we have all these maps at the township hall. So you can get those. I have some of those at the back. And then, like I said, if you want to get involved in one of our great events we have going on, or we've got some of the new ones we've got going on. The September Street Fest, that's August 24th from 9 to 3. We're going to be closing down Lewis Avenue and having a really cool parade with different types of biking events and stuff like that. A lot of vendors, food trucks, so we're excited about that. And then we have a gig coming up this year, it's the Blizzard Fest. If you're interested in that, some information on the back. A couple other things going on I want to talk about is the roundabout. It's really been a hot topic, but I feel that it's a really good thing that's going to happen in Bedford Township. We are going through the motions still. We are doing a phase 2 environmental study. Phase 1 came back with some questionable things that we really want to make sure before we purchase this property as a township that we don't get stuck with $1 million cleanup. So we want to make sure that it's fairly clean. It's not going to cost a fortune. So we're working with the real estate people on that. Barry Bush and his team again are doing the studies. So look for that coming, I would think, in the next couple of board meetings. That's really all I have. Like I said, I didn't want to go too long. Does anybody have any questions of anything that's going on in the township? Any questions for me, my report? I did put some maps up there of DDA projects. That's our Downtown Development Authority within the Lambertville area. It shows you kind of the map of where the DDA is. It shows you projects. I put that on the back wall. I did put the map up for the TAP grant that we're getting at Downtown Temperance. That work will be going forward this year. It was almost stopped about 2 weeks ago because MDOT only put it out to where small contractors could bid on it, which I like, but only one bid on it, and it came back 30% higher. Semcog partnered with us and said they would cover their percentage of it, so it's only going to cost us about $23,000 more out of our right-of-way fund to cover that project. So it's moving forward, and we're excited about it. But if you want to see what that looks like, there's another map back there. Anyways, anybody have any questions? There's one.
Paul, what's the progress on the Jackman and Smith intersection?
The roundabout? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have to purchase the property. Okay, we've got some preliminary design studies. The board has approved the roundabout itself. The board has approved moving forward with the purchase. Okay, but now it's all contingent on studies coming back clean and making sure our ducks are in a row before we actually purchase the property. So we have another, I think, very 90 days, 80 days to get all that done. But if everything comes back, reasonable, where we can negotiate with the real estate broker, then it'll go through. Because the board is but if it comes back and it needs $250,000 cleanup, at that point, they can have it. So we don't need to round about that bad. But so, any more questions? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to call up County Commissioner Greg Moore. He's going to introduce Brian Kelly.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for all the hard work that you do on the board and the township. I'm just grateful for Paul and his team and everything that they do over the last 2 years. Our next speaker is just a great guy, and I have a little bio here I'm going to read, but I'll add something afterwards. But let me just read this first. Brian Kelly is a collaborative leader who combines the skills from an accomplished private sector career with a heart for public service and a record of getting things done. He's passionate about making the world work better for all people and uses an inclusive problem-solving approach to make a difference. As president of the Small Business Association of Michigan, Brian is able to put his passion for small businesses to work. He also serves as director of a publicly traded community bank and sits on the board of directors of both Special Olympics Michigan and Autism Alliance of Michigan, and is a trustee of Oakland University. Callie had the honor of serving as Michigan's 63rd Lieutenant Governor from 2011 to 2018, where his work focused on a wide range of issues ranging from major tax code revisions to disability and mental health policy improvements. Prior to serving as Lieutenant Governor, Callie served 2 terms in the Michigan House of Representatives, 2 terms as an Iona County Commissioner, all right, County Commissioner, I like that, and worked for over a decade in community banking. He holds degrees from Michigan State University, Grand Valley State University, and the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Brian and his wife Julie live in Portland with the 3 children, Colin, Reagan, and Kerrigan. I said Kerrigan, correct, right? And most importantly, Brian is a wonderful father, a fantastic husband, Julie tells me, just an all-around swell guy. And when I was on the treadmill last week, I was at about 4 miles, and I literally thought to myself, how does Brian do this? Because he also runs full marathons, multiple a year, which I think also shows his determination, his planning, all the things that you really want to see in the president of Small Business Association. So let's give a big Bedford welcome for Brian Kelly.
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for the invitation to be here. And I kind of feel like you're far away. Step up a little bit closer. Thank you so much for the invitation. It is great to be here where Michigan starts, literally. I do love the tagline. It's very creative. And when I saw Zook here, I was like, why is the Mackinac guy in Monroe County? I mean, what's going on here? So it is really an incredibly small world. And so it's great to be back with you. This is a very special part of our state, and dealing in statewide policy over the course of the last 12 years, you get a sense for how much more acute some of the challenges are when you border a different state government. That you're in very close proximity to different sets of rules, and it provides a whole different set of challenges. And you have a long history of strong representation that have represented those differences and those more peculiar or more unique sets of needs. So we'll talk a little bit about a few of the policies that you might be interested in that have been working their way through state government, some fast and some slow, that I think are particularly important for an area like this. But first, a little bit about the association. So now the president of the Small Business Association of Michigan, not to be confused with the Small Business Administration, that is a government agency. We are a private sector association, so we are an association for small businesses. We have membership that covers all 83 counties, and in every industry you can think of. It's not an industry specific, it is a size specific association. So you have to be small to join us. And we are made up of almost 27,000 small businesses across the state, the largest association of its kind in the country. And that's not particularly surprising to me, having been all across this state and having spent time in all 83 counties. I know that the landscape is dominated by small businesses. Small businesses are the ones who really make our economy go. They provide the majority of the jobs, and you heard that right. Small businesses provide the majority of the jobs, so that the biggest job providers are small businesses. And it's also, they also provide the diversity and the resiliency and the uniqueness and the innovation that makes our state special. Even the bigger companies, and we love them. We're so blessed to have very large household names all around the world that are headquartered right here in Michigan. But what makes them stronger is the innovation that they get through the supply chain that you find right here. It's really cool stuff, and it's an awesome place to be. Have loved my time now, 6 months, almost 6 months in this role, right after leaving the office of Lieutenant Governor for the previous 8 years. Now, at the association, we're a business services organization, but we also do business advocacy. So part of what I do is advocate for a better business climate in Michigan. So just looking out for the interest of small business, for things that are moving through the process, but also to develop policy on the ground floor in order to advance it and push it forward. So a few of the things I wanted to talk, and while that's not the majority of what we do, the majority of what we do are services for small businesses, things like COBRA administration or workers' comp or pooling healthcare purchases and that sort of thing. That is the majority of what we do. But the public-facing part, the part that people see more often, is the part where we're engaging with the political process. And we do engage with the political process. We're very successful at it. The voice for small business in our political system. And so a few of the things that you might care about that are moving through, and I'll cover somewhere there's more broad across the aisle type participation, some unusual alliances that have come together on certain issues, and then some other areas where it looks much more traditional, much more like what you would expect. So when I first started in this position, it was a brand new House, a brand new Senate, a brand new governor, a brand new Attorney General, a brand new Secretary of State. It was really, leadership in both chambers was changing over. It was really a new day in Michigan. And that always comes along with a certain amount of optimism. And even with me, now, as most of you would know, I ran for governor last year. Gretchen Whitmer is a friend, has been for a long time. And I made a commitment straight away when she won that election that anything that I could do to help her be successful in advancing the interests of the people of the state of Michigan, I'm on board 100%. How can I help? Right? It's an obligation I think all of us have as citizens, but especially somebody like me who had been in the previous administration and also on the other side of the aisle at a time of extraordinary division in our country, that finally bending over backward to find areas where we can work together to make good things happen. It is, I see it as an obligation. And I hope that people see me as following through on that obligation. In fact, in our annual meeting yesterday, our biggest event of the year, 500 of our closest friends come together for our annual meeting in Lansing, and the keynote speaker was Gretchen Whitmer. And she did a great job laying out the budget and the needs and the infrastructure needs. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about talent acquisition, talent development, the access to good employees that can deliver on what you need in order to accommodate the growth in your company. Now, over the last 10 years, we go back in time 10 years, the problems would have been all different, right? In 2009, the biggest problem that we faced in our state was not enough jobs, right? In fact, the availability of jobs was shrinking so quickly that we basically lost an entire generation of graduates that had to go someplace else to find opportunity. We had others that had the means to retire early, and because it just didn't seem worth it to stay in the workforce anymore, they left the workforce. We had other people in certain industries like construction that had to move to other places to find opportunity. Now, 10 years later, when our state is on one of the longest running economic expansions in our history, our problem is the exact opposite. Not enough people to fill all the jobs that have been and are being created. Right now, as we stand in Michigan, right now, today, there are more than 100,000 open jobs. Now, there's still some people, though, that are having a hard time finding their way to those opportunities. People that aren't really well aligned or well positioned to take advantage of the demand. And so we have this issue that I think there's a really important role in public policy to talk about. And that is our talent development pipelines, how we connect people to the skills that they need to go out there and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there in the world. Governor Whitmer, I think very wisely, recognized this early on as the top concern in terms of economic development, economic growth in our state. Instead of trying to come up with something brand new or just out of something from scratch, she looked around the country. A lot of us business associations were doing the same thing and looked for best practices. And we both found our way to what happened in Tennessee. Tennessee decided 5 years ago with a Republican governor, Republican House, and Republican Senate that they need to get serious about changing the culture on going on for additional education, be it skill certificates or degrees, could be community college, could be university, but going on post-high school education as being something that we needed to kind of take off the table as a question, like, do we need to, are we going to that kitchen table conversation, not that anybody actually eats at kitchen tables anymore, but the proverbial kitchen table conversation. Nobody would graduate from 8th grade and say, well, let's decide, are we gonna go on to high school or not, right? That's not a conversation anybody has. There's an assumption that you're gonna need more. And to the extent that we can change the conversation at the graduation of high school, that you are going to go on to develop additional skills, if we can change that question to not if, but what, which direction to take, and there are a lot of great directions that can be taken. It could be a skill certificate of some sort, right? An occupational license. It could be an associate's degree. It could be a bachelor's degree, baccalaureate degree, or something further through the education process than that. But something's going to come after that. So how do we remove the barriers that people have? What they did in Tennessee is they said, you know, the state's going to commit to last dollar support. When somebody graduates from high school, if they want to go to community college, it's going to be available to them. Now, they have some responsibilities and obligations. They have to apply for a Pell Grant, so that the state support is the last dollar support in, not the first dollar. So you exhaust all the other options and possibilities you can to pay for community college. And after you have done that, if there is a gap, then that's where the state kicks in to help with tuition and mandatory fees. But it also requires, what they did down there in Tennessee, was they required community service from those who are receiving that state support. They required maintenance of a minimum GPA. They also required continuous enrollment. So you can't start and then stop and then start again. That's half of the problem. A lot of people, some college credit, but not the credential at the end of the day. There is a straight line. As much as it's not like in our historical culture to recognize this. There is a straight line between post-high school credentials and income growth. It's not a bumpy line or a wavy line. It's just a straight line. It goes up. And so as we look to try and connect more people with opportunity and expand the pipeline of talent, that doing something like Tennessee did makes a lot of sense. Now, they had so much success, though, that they decided that they wanted even more. And why not? Why limit to just kids getting out of high school? How about the 25 to 64-year-olds? That maybe the world has changed and they're getting left behind. If you look back at the political conversation over the last couple of cycles, you'll see that there are more and more people that feel like the world is leaving them behind right now, even though we've had extraordinary economic growth. And so what can we do to connect more people with that opportunity? Why would we limit it to people in high school? It's interesting things that have happened in other states when you really get down to it. The number of people that are really, really close to that credential that results in higher income, that something changed, that they're on their way, something changed in life, and they never went back and finished it. In some states, they have found tens of thousands of people that were just right on the cusp, and their whole life had changed, and they just went back and finished up a little bit. And that's why this, what they call the Reconnect program in Tennessee, that when they decided to launch that, they thought they were going to promote it, and people coming in droves in order to make it happen. And so the governor set a goal. She wants to go from 45% of our workforce having a post-high school credential, which is where we're at today, to 60%, which is where the top performing states are today. When I say top performing, I'm talking about income growth and income levels, quality of life. Those states are closer to 60. We're at 45. 60% by 2030. It's a very ambitious goal. Now, that 45% will naturally grow because new people entering the workforce are more likely to have post-high school credentials than the baby boomers that they're replacing in the workforce. So naturally there's going to be some growth, but not enough because the demographics are not in our favor. We think of as Florida as a retirement state. They're not the retirement state we are. They have about 20% of their population retired. Florida, 20%. By 2030, 23% of our population will be retired. And so the demographics are in our favor. The only way that we can get there is if we help people that are already currently in the workforce or in that 25 to 64-year-old category, convince them to go back and finish up or get that post-high school credential. And that's where Reconnect comes in. And so Governor Whitmer called me. Actually, the funny thing is, I was in the city of Monroe when she called me last February or something. And said, would you be willing to convene the general business associations and look at this Tennessee model that I'd like to adopt, and let me know what we need to do to get all of you guys on board in supporting that effort. And so with the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Grand Rapids Chamber and the Small Business Association, Michigan Business Leaders for Michigan, and the Michigan Chamber, we got together and really dug into this. We put together a set of principles that we thought should be required here in Michigan to employ a model like that. So we're working together now to make that happen. It's something I'm really excited about because it has scale. We need literally hundreds of thousands more people with post-high school credentials that represent real skills that are demanded out there in the economy. And so that's something that has a lot of great bipartisan support. It could be a win that we get across the board. So that's the first policy area you might have some interest in. Second, roads. You heard a little bit about township roads and plans in township roads. The conversation in the state political scene is really being dominated by roads today. And I'm kind of, I grew up in a Baptist church, so I don't swear, but I understand the sentiment. And everybody swears when they talk about roads these days. I can't figure out why. But anyway, the conversation around roads is really focused on now how more than if. So how are we going to fund our roads, not do we need to fund them more? Back in 2014, when Rick and I decided to make this a real priority, and we worked it every which way that we possibly could, we ended up getting a phase-in of an increase in road funding that will when next year, when it reaches its maximum part of the implementation, the ongoing top of the implementation, is about $1.2 billion more a year into roads. But back then, when we did that, when we looked at the real need, we did feel that the need was, I think the number came up with that at that time was $2.1 billion. But in politics, it's the art of the possible, right? So we didn't want to end up with nothing more into roads. And everybody want to ask the question, like, well, why do you need so much more for roads? We had the two previous administrations, before the Snyder administration, had employed a practice of pretending like we had more money than we did. So they borrowed money. They borrowed money to build roads. It's a terrible, terrible idea. And so what happened was, like with John Nickler did the Build Michigan bond issuance, and they did a 5-cent gas tax increase back then, but that was nowhere near what was needed in order to pay back those loans. So they did a whole bunch of road work, and it seemed like, wow, we're making progress. And it didn't cost anybody anything, except for the next generation that we said that somehow they're just gonna have to figure out how to pay for this. And then the Granholm administration said, boy, we need to do road repairs. And can't really get a gas tax increase or any other kind of, I don't know what we're gonna do to get it. So let's borrow money, the previous administration did. So they did a bond issuance, only didn't do a 5-cent or anything connected to it to pay it back. And so there is even more debt. And then a former banker and an accountant was elected as lieutenant governor and governor, and said, we're not borrowing more money with no plans for how to pay it back. So here's what happened. You had a certain amount of money went into roads every year, but the proceeds from borrowings all got spent, right? So here's the amount per year. And not only that, the kick in the teeth was that the gas tax you pay, the first $225 million in gas tax you pay, you don't pay for fixing roads today. They pay for the roads that got fixed 15 years ago. Because when you borrow money, you have to pay it back. It's just how it works. And so if it seemed like the roads got worse, it's because the roads got worse. And the roads got worse because We weren't borrowing anymore to pretend like we had more than we did. And we had to pay back the loans that were taken out before. So it's a real conundrum. Now, I personally broke the tie on increasing the gas tax in 2015. I didn't want to do that. All right, that's not one of my favorite days. One of my least favorite days. In fact, it was featured in a commercial last year. But here's the thing, our roads really suck. They're really bad. I don't know if you noticed, they are, trust me. And so we had to do something. Now, so the amount that went in, it made it such that it would, in terms of the amount of maintenance and repair dollars, that it should kind of level out around 50% good. 50% with the gas tax and because we did a half and half, so we said, okay, 1.2 billion more into roads, half from gas tax registration fees, half from reprioritization of current spending, so general fund designation to roads. So 1.2 billion into more into roads, and that should level out at about 50% good, which means 50% not good. Now, it would have been, had that not happened, it would have been more like 22% good. And so that's the improvement from that 2015 plan. I don't think anybody feels good about 50% good. And so Governor Whitmer looked at it and said, you know, we've got to do more. She put on the table, she wants to get to 90% good. I don't know how realistic that is. I mean, honestly, if you're replacing roads at the type of clip where they're always 90% of them good, you're probably replacing some of them early. So when you start getting up into the 90s, the overall cost is kind of like a diminishing returns type of a thing. It starts getting more expensive the closer to 100% that you get. So I don't know that that's the right goal, but I do know that there needs to be more. So she put on the table a very large gas tax increase, 45 cents, phase in over 3 increases in 1 year. So like one right away, 1 in 6 months, 1 6 months after that. And it doesn't have any support in the legislature. Again, probably not a surprise, right? This is, it would make Michigan by far the highest gas tax in the country. And so the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans are looking at a lot of different options. The House Republicans want to make a very substantial structural change that I think is a pretty good idea, and that is to untie road funding with school funding. So today, one of the reasons why we have high taxes, low spend on roads is because the sales tax applies to gasoline and diesel. But the sales tax doesn't go to roads. The sales tax is required by our Constitution to go to schools and local governments. It's almost $1 billion, not quite, of the taxes you pay at the pump go to schools and local governments, not roads. That is unusual around our country. It's required by our Constitution, but it's unusual around our country. And so what the House Republicans are talking about doing is take the gas tax off roads and then do a gas tax, like a per gallon gas tax, like a traditional gas tax, to replace it. And so that would put another, let's call it $850 to $900 million into roads every year. So great for our roads, our schools are like, what? So the House Republicans have some other plans for schools to backfill some of that money. The school aid fund actually grows faster than the other funds in state government because it gets all 4 major pillars when it comes to support. It gets the lottery profits, it gets property taxes, it gets sales taxes, and it gets income taxes. So it's a very diverse revenue stream. It grows better and more consistently than other funds. So they look at it out on a 2-year basis and say, you know what, even if we did that, it's still going to be higher 2 years from now. And one of the things, internet sales tax, there's been court decisions in favor of requiring parity for, if you buy something online, you got to pay sales tax just like if you bought a bricks and mortar. That's going to result in some increases that mostly go to schools. So looking at it and saying, you know what, there'll be modest increases even if we do this. There'll be modest increases, but it'll still go up. Schools still don't like this idea. But in terms of fixing a structural problem in our tax code, it would be nice if they figured out a way to move that policy change through. Something I always wanted to do, but we couldn't assemble the votes to make it happen. So that's the House Republicans' answer to the governor's proposal. And then the Senate Republicans are, I think, on the cusp of putting something on the table as well, and that's when the real negotiation starts for coming to a final conclusion. While SPM was 100% behind the Reconnect and My Opportunity Scholarship proposals that I started with, on road funding, while we acknowledge that there is a need for more, we have not yet signed up for any particular proposal on how to get there. The amount that the governor is asking for in terms of the need in our roads, it's justified, but maybe not realistic, at least not at that level. The House Republicans' approach is smaller, probably too small in terms of the amount of need in the road, but it fixes a fundamental problem in our tax code, a structural problem in the way that we pay for our roads. I think it's really important. And then the Senate Republicans, I've heard some rumors about things that they're planning, but I don't want to opine on those in case, every once in a while there's a rumor that's not true. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I haven't had one, so I'll keep my powder dry on that for now until it comes out. But see, SBM, the Small Business Association of Michigan plays a special role in our public policy system, is that we are a convener, we're peacemakers. We work with everybody to try and find solutions. And so that's why you don't see us operating in kind of a smash mouth play. We might disagree with some things, but we're not going to ruin our relationships over it. We're going to make sure that people have an open door to us because we treat people with respect. We're discreet when we need to be discreet, and but we're going to be forceful advocates for small business. Our infrastructure is one of the areas that does hold us back, so we need to find some progress on this. We need to expand the talent pipeline. Now, there is one proposal that the House Democrats just recently made to double small business taxes in order to pay for roads. I absolutely hate that proposal. I fight vigorously against it. They're not serious about it. They felt like they had to put something on the table, and so they put something on the table that a lot of them say, well, all small businesses pay is the personal income tax rate, and they do, right? That's how small businesses are passed through entities, LLCs, S corporations, sole proprietors, partnerships, and so what happens is all of their business income flows through the personal tax return, and they pay the state 4.25% income tax on all of their business income. The idea of then setting up a different tax code and making them pay another tax on that exact same income is not fair. It doesn't make any sense. Michigan did that for 40 years, and in 2011, I also broke the tie in the tax reform deal that stopped the double taxation in small companies. And they've just proposed literally yesterday to put that back on the table, to which I say, absolutely not. So we'll work very vigorously against that. I don't consider it to be a serious proposal, though. I think it really was just, they weren't getting behind the governor's proposal. They didn't like what the Republicans did, so like, well, we got to say something here. So it was, I would have rather them said nothing, actually. It would have been a little better. Auto no fault, I'll close with this and we'll take some questions. Auto no fault reform passed. There are not that many things that surprised me. This one surprised me. In fact, with our Legislative Action Council of the Small Business Association of Michigan, there are really strong feelings on both sides of this. People, depending on which industry they're in, and we're debating the policy, but SBM to get involved in this because we have it before. And I said, listen, this argument has been going on literally for my entire lifetime, longer than I've been alive. And our next meeting in a couple months, I promise you, it's not going to be resolved by then. So we're going to pick this up next time, and then it got resolved by then. So not very many things surprised me. This one really did. So very large wholesale change. This is actually probably more important for a border county than it is for most places in our state. And so what they did was they took a required benefit of all auto insurance policies, and starting next year, it will become optional. And the option is the personal injury protection. They call it PIP coverage, PIP, personal injury protection. Right now, whether you have private health insurance or if you're in a company vehicle and you're covered by workers' comp, you have to have unlimited lifetime coverage for serious accidents. And so That accounts for about 40% on average across the country of your premium, or across the state. There are some places where it's higher than that, but on average in the state of Michigan, about 40% of what you pay on your auto insurance is for this unlimited lifetime medical. Most states, if they require any coverage at all for medical, it's like for the part to get you from the accident to the hospital in the emergency room care. But in terms of long-term care, there are other systems. You might have private health insurance that covers that, and if you don't, you might get Medicaid, or if you have neither, then you end up on Medicaid, but it's but that's how it happens in most states. In our state, it goes through this other system. And it's proven to be pretty expensive, and the drivers that drive without insurance have been very, very high here compared to other places because of that. And so you'll be able to choose a lower level of coverage. So you can still buy the unlimited lifetime medical, but if you can prove that you have insurance with a deductible of $6,000 or less, then you can forego it. Forego this coverage through your auto insurance. And that will make a dramatic difference on the cost of your insurance. There are some other coverage levels too. You can pick $250,000 coverage, $500,000 coverage, that sort of thing. But all the way up to unlimited lifetime, they put mandated rate reductions where the personal injury protection piece, if you stick with the unlimited lifetime medical because they put a reimbursement schedule, a rate schedule, like to control the cost of each reimbursement, even that will go down 10% to eliminating that portion of your bill altogether. So this was very, very controversial, but Republicans and Democrats found their way to a compromise. The compromise looked a lot closer to where the House Republicans were as compared to the Senate Republicans of the governor. The House Republicans were the ones who, this is basically their plan. And it ended up being the compromise agreement, and it's going into effect next year. There'll probably be a few tweaks to it along the way. There always is in massive legislation when it goes through. Things that people didn't think about, or things that during implementation found there were problems that could be tweaked a little bit, but that's the program. So your rates are going to go down, but for the first time, you're going to have to think about what type of risk you want to take on. Some people say, well, this unlimited lifetime medical, because that pool is going to get smaller, the cost of it's going to be unsustainable long term. And I thought that too. And then the person who heads up the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association that maintains this pool of resources, he said no, he thinks that it's going to be the opposite. He thinks that the risk profile of people who will continue to elect full unlimited lifetime coverage, they're going to be people that are very risk adverse. And the theory is that those are also going to be people that are less likely to get into accidents because by nature they're very risk adverse. And that's pretty interesting. These insurance actuaries, they're risk managers for a living, is what they do. And so I thought that was an interesting perspective and one that there's probably something to it. So I'll go ahead and close my comments down there, and I'll be happy to take some questions and stuff that we talked about or anything else. And if, no matter what you want to ask, you can ask me about anything. Don't worry about offending me. I'm not asking you, I'm not like challenging you, like trying to offend you, but I'm saying don't worry about it. Ask me anything you want to. Yes, sir.
Good question. We have a lot of businesses that want to, put a new business in, let's say at the corner of Smith and Secor. Well, they're required to do traffic studies, and it costs sometimes $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 to do a traffic study. And then after they do this traffic study, they say, hey, we need you to widen the road. How does a small business afford to put in new roads along with their business? And, I talk about it, it's like the first 50 businesses that put in at, Secor and Stearns, they didn't have to do, all this work, and now it's on them. So it really hinders, I've seen it a few times where it's stayed left, because they just can't afford to do what they need to do. So do you have any suggestions on that?
Well, there's basically two ways that you can go. You can have those that create the traffic, pay for the improvements, or you can kind of generalize the cost across the whole system. The way that it works today is there's not even enough money to maintain what we have. So if you're going to do something that that results in the need for an expansion in infrastructure, there's no, again, this might change if there's a big compromise or some improvement, but there's really no pot of money to go to do major expansions. And the definition of major is open to debate, but if you're acquiring property, then it's a pretty big expansion. Those tend to be pretty expensive projects. So I think that's the trade-off that we have today, is that a transportation system that's having a hard time maintaining what we have. The only place that they can go is to say, well, somebody's going to put in a subdivision, or somebody's going to put in an operation that's going to generate a lot of traffic that can't be handled by current infrastructure. Then it's kind of like a process of elimination. That's the only one left, the only option left. So I would say that it's not the best option, because there are a lot of general benefits to employment improvements and options and investments that are happening. There are some economic development dollars that go toward these, but they're not. It's just not enough, and it's hard to qualify for them. So because the competition is so fierce for it. But when let's talk a little bit about economic development for a minute. We think of economic development as project by project, because that's the kind of the birth of economic development in Michigan. So when General Motors decided to put the Saturn plants in Tennessee, it was a big wake-up call. They were like, oh my gosh, General Motors is not going to do everything in Michigan. And so what are we going to do? And the MEDC was kind of born out of that. And so the idea was you go after specific companies and you put money into paying them to be here. And while I understand the logic behind that, I wonder how much further we would get if we thought of economic development in ways that created a better environment for success for everybody. And in some cases, it could be infrastructure improvement. Right? So there's only so much. Well, the bridge to Canada that you referred to earlier is a good example of that. That's a choke point today. Right? Chrysler, on its own, sends 600 trucks across the Ambassador Bridge every day. Every day. And there are literally hundreds, really thousands, of companies in the supply chain that rely on that one infrastructure asset. But it's a choke. There's only so much growth that can happen today because of that. So the idea of thinking of infrastructure improvements as economic development, it's like the circulatory system of our economy. You have to move goods and services and people efficiently across the landscape. So that's why, and that could be electricity, right? A different, it might be the need to have a substation in an area that can handle a higher load. If you think about economic development in terms of infrastructure, you create more broadband connectivity. This is the sort of thing where it's not just an expense for one company, but it's a better environment for anybody who's going to locate in that area. So I think long-term, that's really the answer, is to think about economic development as a better environment for success, as opposed to only, and I'm not suggesting repeal all the stuff that's company-specific, but to think of economic development as only that, I think we're missing a bigger opportunity. Other questions? I'll answer shorter than that one. I was halfway through, but I was like, well, I just got to finish up now down this road.
Well, I have two quick questions before I shoot. One question is, there's a real push away from going to school and getting a degree and going to, say, an institution or an industry and getting a certification. So I wanted you to speak about your organization. And the second question I have is, does the tax issue that they're talking about fix the insurance policy, fix the no-fault component of the insurance?
Well, the first question is, hopefully you notice that I'm always careful to talk about both options, because when we talk to our members, it's not just college degrees. College degrees are a great option to go. You heard from my bio. I've got 3 of them, actually 4 community college where I started. But but it's that's one pathway. But there are so many different highly lucrative and noble pathways to go down. I don't think we have to convince the kids as much as we have to convince the parents. And also the system that we've kind of set up in the primary education, like career counseling, whatever exists there, sometimes they're like career days, but there's not a good way to follow up on career days. Like what if a kid gets really excited and says, I went to a career day and I want to be a home builder. And then the answer is, that's great. In 7 years after you graduate from high school, you can think about this trade school. As opposed to having a real connection somehow in the education system to really explore that earlier. So I think in the primary education system, it's really geared toward college. I wouldn't suggest that it's bad to gear things toward college. It's just not exclusively.
Well, you can leave high school and go be a welder and make $40,000 out of a shoe.
Yeah, and you can learn to become a welder in just a matter of months, and so not years. And and there's additional certifications. You can become a higher and higher qualified welder, do different types of welds, and get yourself up into that $85,000 to $90,000 salary range. So but that's the sort of thing that a lot of people don't know that. And so really solid career counseling. The Marshall Plan that we did last year, part of that was better career counseling for kids as they're to really explore all the options that exist. But we still have to make sure that parents don't look at it like, skilled trades are good for other people's kids. I hope other people's kids think about that. And instead of really looking at it like my son wants to be, maybe wants to be an architect, or maybe he wants to be a music teacher, or maybe he wants to be a home builder. He had an interest in all these things. I bought a house. It's like this really junky one down. It's been a rental for like 30 years. And we took it down to the studs and just rebuilt it together. I used to do that type of work. And I was so thrilled that he was showing some interest in it. Now he's ruled it out after that job. But the thing is that to me it was like, if he wants to do that for a living, I'd love to explore that with him. To me, I don't know if it's only one option. It's for my son, if he was a home builder, I think it'd be awesome. I didn't understand the other question though on the insurance and taxes.
You're talking about fixing, the legislature is talking about fixing the insurance policies by making them cheaper, by removing the requirement for that long-term insurance, but in Michigan, it's nobody's fault. Is there any talk about making it somebody's fault?
Oh, okay, so actually we're killing the no-fault system itself.
Right.
That really didn't seriously enter the conversation, only because I think, you get in an accident, it's like, well, now I gotta sue you. While there are some aspects of the no-fault system which are distasteful, it's like one of those things where we say, well, our system of government in America is the worst one except for every other option. So there's a lot of, we got warts and wrinkles and things, but I can't think of another one that would be better. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people are in no fault, is it presents a lot of challenges and things, but to enter in lawsuits for resolution for accidents, it comes with a whole other set of complexities and challenges.
Right.
All right, how about we do one more question? I think we're getting late on time here. If anybody has one more? Okay. All right, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you everybody for attending. We plan to do this twice a year, so have a great day. It's beautiful out, so we'll see you.